individual, dear colleagues, distinguished ministers, ladies and gentlemen. I am honored to participate in this important meeting, and I'm most grateful to President Obama and the United States government for taking the initiative to convene this event. Today, wildlife crime in Africa rivals drugs, arms, and human trafficking in its economic, social, and security implications. Our oceans are plundered by pirate fishing boats who steal billions of dollars from our economies and take food from hungry children's plates. Our emblematic species are slaughtered for their tusks, horns, and bones, of which are now worth more than gold on black markets located far from our continent. Criminal gangs and occasionally even terrorist groups organize this illegal commerce, killing and corrupting our wildlife and law enforcement officials. In the last decade, we have lost over thousands of wildlife rangers across Africa. In some parts of Africa, poachers and pirates are a genuine threat to national security. In the last decade, we have seen an alarming trend of increasingly organized, well-equipped, and violent criminals turning to wildlife crime. Today, rhinos are often poached from helicopters by teams with sophisticated communications and automatic weapons. Our wildlife departments struggle to contain the problem, and with the possible exception of Botswana, Namibia, we have all suffered severe losses in the last decade. In Gabon, we lost 14,000 elephants in our biggest park, Minkebe, just between 2004 and 2012. And even today, despite the deployment of over 100 military personnel to support national park staff, we continue to suffer significant losses. Despite these losses, today Gabon is home to over half of the forest elephants, and it's no exaggeration to say that the battle for survival of this magnificent species will be played out in our rainforest. If we lose the war, if we lose this war, we will not only see one of our most important totems, disappear, we will suffer significant ecological and economic losses and may even struggle to maintain peace and security. That is why my government is acting decisively. Last year, there's a poacher in the room. Merci. Last year, I burnt out our entire stockpile of ivory to pass the message that Gabon has a policy of zero tolerance for this illegal ivory trade and wildlife crime. We hope soon to adopt a new law strengthening penalties for ivory trafficking and other wildlife crime. Happily, the news is not all bleak. The surfing hippos and beachcombing elephants of Ruangwa National Park, made famous by National Geographic, continue to prosper, and our protection efforts over the last 5 years have seen elephants return to the beaches of Pongara National Park, just 30 minutes from downtown Libreville. We're starting to see significant tourism investment and job creation by investors that trust my government efforts to increase spending, to professionalize our parks department, to fight corruption and establish sound environmental governments. Of the coast and in the coastal parks, our efforts over the last 18 months to root out corruption in the fisheries ministry and to regulate artisanal and trawling fishing boats has almost eliminated illegal fishing in our territorial waters. as you may have seen in a recent National Geographic documentary. We have received significant financial support from the United States government, principally through a cooperative agreement between the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Department and our National Parks Agency. We have also initiated several training programs for wildlife and fishery managers and law enforcement officers with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the Forest Service, and most recently with the U.S. Marine Corps. We also are working actively with the State Department's the COPY program to extend work out of the parks and into wildlife corridors and forestry concessions. Through these programs and other initiatives, we hope to be able to preserve our natural wonders for future generations, making parks like Luango, Minkebe into our Yellowstones. It is clear that we cannot and we will not win this war against wildlife crime alone. This is an international problem requiring an international solution. We're working with other African nations, both bilaterally or through multilateral initiatives, such as the Elephant Protection Initiative launched in London in February by Botswana, Chad, Ethiopia, Tanzania, and Gabon. We have established an international wing within our National Parks Agency to help neighboring countries, including programs to help local authorities to preserve wildlife and natural heritage, both in Central African Republic and in Mali. We need help professionalizing our law enforcement agency and tracking the criminal networks and money laundering operations from Africa to the markets. And we need strong international support to reduce the demand for illegal wildlife products, including fish. And I congratulate the U.S. government on its decision announced at the John Kerry's Our Oceans Summit to require proof that all fish sold in the U.S. be sourced from legal, sustainable fisheries. Terrestrial and marine parks and sustainable use of terrestrial and marine ecosystems are a keystone of our vision to develop my country, Gabon, into an emerging economy. I look forward to continued cooperation between the United States government, Gabon, and the rest of Africa on this very important issue. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, and I think everyone will join me in saying that we admire the courage, resilience, and commitment that all of Your Excellencies have shown in working on these issues, and it's only through that type of commitment of a long term that we'll be able to confront these issues.
Clear. So let's move it. I'm sorry, sir.
Maybe the poacher is sitting next to me. Since I just recently, was informed that tests from our elephants are going to his country. So I wonder. No, on a more serious note, I just want to say that, as President Kikwete said, there's never been like a real opposition. But in the case of Gabon, things were quite a little different, like, for instance, than Tanzania. Tanzania has always been a country, of tourism. Whereas in Gabon has never been a country of tourism. For many decades, we never thought that we could even attract, tourists. We never thought that tourists could be interested in a rainforest and to see the rainforest and what's in the rainforest. So when we realize, the problem and the danger of wildlife, crime, we just understood that we had just to build a case. and they go out and explain to the people, that what was happening was terrible, and in the long run, it was going to hurt the country. So it just took, from us, explanation, with the decision of late President Bongo to create 13 national parks, allocating like 11% of the country to national parks. We then had to explain why he was doing that, what he wanted to preserve, and also start programs for kids in school, and telling the youth that, well, what we have been able to enjoy, what we've seen, and especially our elephants, gorillas, other animals, we don't want you to have to fly out to Europe or United States to go in zoo, to see what was in just your backyard. Your backyard. The difficulty came from explaining all that and showing the economics, about the decision to fight, crime, and to explain to people, because people, well, we've always had a lot of elephants. I said, well, do you know that we have lost almost half? Well, we still see a lot. And for others, it was just to explain that, well, the elephants, they come and destroy, farm, everything. So we have to explain that, an elephant alive is more valuable, than dead. And then later on, it's because that very elephant that you will have thousands of tourists, coming, providing jobs, opportunities, for our people. And then also showing documentaries, having some of our officials travel, go out, see other countries. Then we were able, to increase awareness and to really gather support even from, the Parliament, because at first, it's true to say that, going to MPs, they say, well, we want to toughen laws, on crime and wildlife. They say, what are you talking about? But now we have been able to do that, and then talking with some of our neighbors and our colleagues, and recognizing that there is a problem, we have a full support, from our people.
Let me take it to the next level, which is the regional level. What isn't in place, either at the sub-regional or regional or African level? What is not in place that could and should be that would help you here? What sort of arrangements, mechanisms, sharing of information, police and military coordination, you name it. What is it that the AU or other bodies could do that would actually make it easier for you to report back in a year or two some real progress?
Well, recently we have been able to, among us, to discuss this problem and realize that, just by discussing that, we all were faced with the same problems, with the same threat. And so we then realized that it was important for us to work together. For me, it was important to know what was done in the neighboring countries, and for us to start talking about, common strategy. And this is really where we have to make, progress. Common strategy. How to also train, equip, rangers, protect them, protect their families, because we've lost quite a few. And also recognize that common strategy is needed because we're also being faced now with organized crime, transnational and organized crime. So we all reckon that. And and being faced with organized crime, being faced with terrorists, it is clear now that at the continental level, we are talking and taking measure, because we know that it's a threat even to the stability of the continent, So therefore, the African Union will be convening an international conference on illegal exploitation and trade in the wildlife. And this conference is to take place in Brazzaville, in the Republic of Congo, in a few months, actually in October. So that's our major first, continental response. I was speaking about an initiative that was taken with Tanzania, Chad, Botswana, and then the London conference, also to work together to make sure that we go and seek support from our partners to say that, well, you guys are the market. Let's kill the market, and we'll save, the animals. We'll save also human beings. So that is why at this time I'm very hopeful and very confident that we will make progress, because we're not only talking, but now we're establishing a common strategy at the highest level, with the help of the support of the African Union. And we need, from there, with the African Union being involved, the next step will be to get the UN involved.
And I think that's the public policy issue.
Just like my colleagues, I just want to say that to talk to the Chinese, it's something that we have done. But as President Kikwete said, this is not a policy, of the Chinese government, but the action, of Chinese. We were very pleased to see in London Chinese representatives and also representatives from Vietnam. The Chinese for many years were unaware of this situation, and they don't like to lose face, and it's become an embarrassment to them. And for us, we did not understand at first how this liking of ivory is deep-rooted, is cultural thing with the Chinese. So what I did is speaking to a Chinese official, I told this Chinese official, I said, well, obviously you care very much, about, the pandas. He said, of course, and he went on to explain what, the importance of pandas, for China. And I said that, what if I came with a stupid story that, pandas' hair, because you see there are so many of you Chinese, is good for fertility. Or if I came for a story and say, well, it helps, grow hair. And then the whole world would come, China, and kill pandas for that purpose. So he looked at me, he was horrified. I said, we feel about the same. We feel exactly the same about our elephants, and rhinos. He understood. Yeah.
Let me ask one last question. We've only got a few more minutes, so we'll end on a slightly more positive note. And we've got Secretary Jewell here and Undersecretary Novelli. So you've got the United States well represented and then some. And you hinted at it, but I want to be systematic. Where do you need more help? From either the United States, the EU, or others. What's the priorities on your list in terms of what it is that you would like to get from us, either more of what you're already getting or things you're not yet getting? What do you think would make a real difference in your ability to be more effective at making it more difficult for poachers and the like to succeed at this line of work? So how, in a sense, how can we help you more? This administration has made this a considerable priority. This task force and all that is a serious innovation. Resources have been allocated to it. So it's not as though we're not doing things. We are. So I'm curious, whether it's the United States or other governments, what is it you would, what is it you want to see that you're not yet seeing, or you want to see more of?
What is always very important is the political will to combat wildlife. It's an all-out war against these people, but the political will is what will get us through this matter. Remember, decades ago we were faced the same problem concerning some other species, like for instance leopard. We no longer have the same problem because, no one today will wear, coat, with leopard skin. So we were successful to save leopards, to save gorillas. So we've done that before. We've done that before. So it has to be brought to the highest level, you know, in the UN, summit, heads of state. And then when you go through, like from African Union to UN, United Nations, to have resolutions so that, you know, to enforce law in every country. Because the problem we had is that some countries are doing this, others that, you know. So we need to all be engaged to do the same and with the same ambition. And I'm sure that we will also be able to succeed. It's going to take, you know, some time, but we're pleased to see that we're here in Washington, D.C. talking about that. You know, obviously it's a victory. And then we need more sessions like this, you know, and to get out in the news and to speak about it. And the highest, you know, the highest level, you know, with heads of states, and also down, you know, to especially educate kids in school, but use the media. But really, it is an important effort on the part of everyone. Everyone has to be, you know, jumping in this for this fight.
Secretary Jewell, I was going to turn to you, but I gather you get the last word anyhow. So I will say it. So I apologize.